I lost 5.5 stone in just under 8 months. And then I entered into like a Tough Mudder, and it just basically it just created a hunger in me to explore the power of the human condition. If you said, meditate, it's like, meditation doesn't work for me, I haven't got time for meditation, can't sit still, all these classic things where you can't meditate, which is all the reasons why you should flipping meditate.
What do you think has created everyone craving dopamine?
Because they're unhappy. That's the stark reality. 78% of people globally do not feel fulfilled. Now, if you're not fulfilled, you will crave stimulation. Breathwork was the most powerful way for me to meditate. If you get breathwork right, you can go on an unbelievable internal journey. That allowed me to essentially operate at kind of a different frequency.
Welcome back to the PerformWell Podcast. This is the podcast for you if you're looking for performance and wellness optimization so that you can not only smash your career, but also have a better life, better relationships, and better health. We believe that performance and wellness are yin and yang and work together. So listen in as we dive into topics that are going to help you optimize your life for the better. Welcome back to another episode of the PerformWell Podcast. Today we have Dan, as you know. We also have Ben Coomber. He is a high-performance coach, a nutritionist, a speaker, and the author of How to Live an Awesome Life. Ben, you shared before that your journey started when you lost 5.5 stone. What did that transformation unlock for you beyond just the weight?
It unlocked kind of the power of the human body, really. I did the physical transformation, and the thing with the physical transformation is I actually struggled for quite a long time. I tried to lose weight, I was running, I was eating well, and I wasn't losing weight. So I was like, and then a couple of things happened. Met someone, they said, read this book. I started to weight train. Long story short, I lost 5.5 stone in just under 8 months, and I was like, wow. And that was just because of better information, the right kind of information. And then I was like, well, if I can do that with my body, what else can I do? And then I entered into a Tough Mudder, and it just basically spurred the desire to be the best version of myself, which I'll now coin the most awesome version of myself. And it just created a hunger in me to explore the power of the human condition.
I think a lot of ways as well. You've started to delve really deep into spirituality too.
I
Do
have.
you think your tremendous amount of weight loss has almost projected, you had more of an idea of where you wanted to go with things, and do you think that spurred on the spirituality side of it as well?
Oh, I don't know. Maybe there was some early groundwork. So when I trained to become a personal trainer after getting fit, so I was about 20, I was very fortunate to have Paul Check in my awareness, and he's a very spiritual dude, taught nutrition and fitness from a very holistic place, very grounded place. So I went and studied with him in California. So there was kind of that. My mum's always been quite a grounded person. She teaches yoga and Reiki and stuff. So there's bits there in and around. But I'd never, I was one of these classic people ages ago that, if you said, meditate, it's like, meditation doesn't work for me, I haven't got time for meditation, can't sit still, all these classic things where you can't meditate, which is all the reasons why you should flipping meditate, because you can't sit still, you can't be still with your internal dialogue. So I don't really know, but I just know where I am right now. And they do say in the sort of world of spirituality that a depression is the start of a human awakening, because it forces someone to go, I'm really not happy. And whether that's for physiological reasons, psychological reasons, environmental reasons, and usually there's multiple factors that plays into someone feeling quite low or depressed or whatever, it was the start of something for me to go, wow, I want different. I crave different. I don't want to live in my head anymore. I don't want to be ran by fear and ego. So I started to explore.
I love that, man. And to be honest with you, we spoke briefly about Joe Dispenza before this podcast over Instagram. And I know I've seen you speak a little bit about Joe Dispenza and what he teaches. And someone that is a scientific, evidence-based coach as yourself, what I'm interested about is the science of the law of manifestation, the attraction, all of the spiritual stuff. What is it that drew you as a science-based coach and thinker to someone like Joe Dispenza when it comes to the spiritual side of stuff?
Well, I'd say Joe Dispenza is probably one of the most prominent evidence-based practitioners in the world of the soul, should we say? The soul and the mind. So I haven't actually read any of his books. I've just done a lot of his meditations online. I've watched a lot of his videos and stuff. Haven't been drawn to any of his books yet. And I always follow my intuition when it comes to reading, like what I want to learn and evolve in myself. But he just has a magical way of presenting what is possible within inside all of us, and he kind of got me hooked in the journey. But there's so many amazing kind of thinkers out there, and until you kind of knock on the door of what is more of the soul, you're not really going to know what's behind it. And I suppose I feel quite passionate about it now, because you look at the fitness industry, we've got this term in the world of fitness called body, mind, soul. But no one really ever gets past the body bit. We're always fighting our body. We're always like, I'm not happy with this. I'm not happy with that. Now I'm on a fitness plan. Now I'm doing this. Now I'm doing high rocks. Now I'm doing this. No one's ever happy with their body. So they don't ever get the time to then move on to the mind. And that's a problem, because the world that we're living in right now is hyper busy, hyper dopaminergic. Everyone's kind of chasing, we're over caffeinated, we're overstimulated, we're overworked. So the soul is literally right at the end of the queue. No one has no idea what to do with it. And I think if you flip that phrase around and start to say soul, mind, body, the domino falls far quicker for everyone. Because if you look at the soul, what is deep within us, let's just call it our truth. Like, what is our truth as a human? And every human is beautifully different. If we got in touch with that and explored it, the mind starts to become a very healthy, beautiful place. And when you have beautiful thoughts about yourself and are empowered and love yourself, you treat your body well. So rather than fighting the body and trying to control the mind, how about we explore the soul, and all of the rest of it just happens?
Mate, I love that.
Honestly, it's crazy when you say that, because the dopaminergic part that you said about there, I've been thinking about that so much this week. Like, it's been genuinely something on my mind, that there's small quips that as you grow with age, you understand why you do things. For example, I had a gaming addiction when I was younger. Whatever I was trying to do was I was escaping life. For example, masturbation and porn use is on an all-time high. Those different things are just quick fixes to solutions. Alcoholism, all-time high as well. These different areas have really delved deep in, because everyone's chasing a dopamine high. But what do you think has created everyone craving dopamine?
Because they're unhappy.
Yeah.
That's the stark reality. Like, when I was doing research for my book, one of the reasons in the subtitle, it's the 11-step formula to success and fulfillment, something like that. And when I was doing research, it said something like 78% of people globally do not feel fulfilled. So that means their relationship, their work, like whatever makes up fulfillment for them. And I was like, Jesus, like that's horrific. Now, if you're not fulfilled, you will crave stimulation wherever you can get it, whether that's alcohol, caffeine, drugs, and more extreme things. Now social media is feeding that kind of thing. And, unfortunately, the algorithm is built to keep you staying on there and exploring and kind of scrolling, especially if you don't have a purpose behind it. Why am I on social media? Don't know. Cool, I'll keep scrolling. So I think people are trying to become more fulfilled. And it goes back to the soul, mind, body thing. If we feed our soul and know what our soul wants, it directs all other behaviors in our life. Because we are then in touch with what we want as a human on a very unapologetic level. And if we can get that right, we can lead people to that. So much unfolds in their life.
Yeah.
It is that kind of... I think one key thing that I want to bring into the kind of conversation is meditation's been an area that I'm weak in. You mentioned a point there that it's a lot of people who say that they need to do meditation, probably do need to do it, but they say they're too busy, they're not in touch with their mind. And me more so, like I do sit there quite often for myself, and I'm like, Christ, like a sequence of meditation. But then similar to what you said, I can't sit there for 2 minutes at this point in time doing it. What is an inroad for people like myself who struggle having that first 2 minutes of just stopping?
Yeah. I'd say an inroad is probably going for a walk in nature without your phone. Because you're in stillness, you're in nature, that's incredibly soothing, but you're kind of on your own, and you're left there with your thoughts. But it's not quite as aggressive as just sitting in silence, like in your bedroom floor with your legs crossed kind of thing. So meditation can formulate itself in many forms. Meditation, we could say, is to become familiar with yourself. So however you choose to do that, whether you journal or you meditate or you go to yoga and it's quite a calming yoga, or you go for a walk in nature, all you're doing is you're spending time allowing yourself to go in and go, how am I thinking? How am I feeling? Where am I at? And understanding the fabric of yourself. The problem is when you do that, most people, that's quite scary. The mind's racing, there's fears, there's money, there's stress, there's work. And it's like, actually, if I just keep moving forward, I never have to stare at all of that stuff. But the thing is, if you don't stare at all that stuff, you don't get an opportunity to deal with it. You don't ever get opportunities to work with it. And I'd spent, 17, 18 years of my life training myself in the gym, being really fit. Like, I didn't need to be fitter. Like, I'm fit, I'm strong, I'm all of those things. But my mind, however, I thought my mind was strong, but my mind wasn't. My mind was highly driven by my ego, highly driven by fear, highly driven by anxiety of like, if I don't do these things, I won't be rewarded, I won't be fulfilled, I won't be financially stable, all of this kind of stuff that goes through our mind. And I was like, I actually want to be the guy that does understand the fabric of his own mind and is at peace with his internal dialogue, because then I am a strong human for myself, for other people, for my kids, for my wife. And I think that's, for me, that felt like a beautiful place to progress into. So there's many tools out there, and it might be that you kind of slowly progress, and I progressed. I think my earliest form of development in this space was reading Stoic philosophy. That was like a really good entry point, because it's just like good wisdom from the ages, and that started to kind of ground some of my mental perspectives on kind of life. And then I started to journal a lot more. I think journaling is a very underrated thing, and most people don't journal because they feel they have to do it a certain way. It's like meditation. I'm meant to sit down and be able to quieten my mind and do all this kind of stuff. No. You don't need to do that. It's like journaling. People say, what shall I write? I'm like, just write. That's the idea. Whatever's in your mind, whatever's in your soul, just flipping write. And the first couple of sentences are a bit like, whoa, and then you hit on a thread, and then all of a sudden you're exploring things. And it's one of the easiest, cheapest forms of self-therapy, writing. People used to do it way back in the day. Like, the people that wanted to think and understand their thoughts, Epictetus, Marcus Aurelius, they wrote. They explored their mind, they distilled their thinking, and now we're trying to learn off their thinking. And that's kind of a bit of a lost art form. And then I sort of slowly progressed into more meditation, wasn't quite getting it, and then really got into breathwork. And that was probably the big gateway that blew the doors off for me. I found that breathwork was the most powerful way for me to meditate, because it really started to expand and open my awareness. If you get breath work right, you can go on an unbelievable internal journey when you have an intention, you kind of explore things. And then that allowed me to kind of essentially operate at kind of a different frequency, a different internal dialogue. And now I can meditate for like an hour, 2 hours. Like, if you said to me right now, Ben, we're off, you're here on your own for the afternoon, I'd be like, cool, all right. And I'll be perfectly happy just sitting by myself, exploring my thoughts. So with all of this stuff, it's a journey, and I think people are trying to get there a bit too quickly. I've got to sit down and like quieten my mind. Like, no, just try and understand a couple of things. Just try and listen to what's happening inside.
I love that. And like, if we go down the route just real quickly, like for the people that listen, tend to be professionals, entrepreneurs, people like that, super stressed out, super high cortisol, sympathetic nervous systems on full alert throughout most of the day. I know you talked about, obviously, you're caffeine free, I believe, in the last couple of years.
It's been about 6 to 9 months.
6 to 9 months,
yeah.
Cool. So we've actually running a challenge recently. He's actually going vegan for 28 days, which seems to be going quite well.
You're going to join us.
And I'm doing no caffeine.
Yeah,
and I'm
nice.
2 days in, so the headaches at the moment are pretty unreal.
Yep.
So it would be great to see what your opinion is on like why we should do things like breathwork and meditation, and why caffeine might have an effect on the cortisol system, and potentially how we can help stressed out busy professionals with dealing with excessive stress in their everyday life using these things.
So let's look at the baseline that every one of us has as a human. So let's say there's a baseline, and that baseline is a certain amount of relaxation in our sympathetic nervous system. we can talk about vagal tone and all sorts of technical things. So let's say there's a baseline, and then there's like baselines with like sleep and baselines with mental health and stuff. What we're trying to do for me is we're trying to move everything into the baseline, and everything's out of the baseline. So people are overworked, they're overtrained, they're overthinking. So breath work, for example, can be a great way of down-regulating the central nervous system, bringing the brain into alignment and getting in touch with your soul, so that you're almost using one tool to bring several things back into the baseline. You know, we're now talking about kind of like cold dips and stuff. People are loving cold dips because A, it makes you feel alive, and B, gets you the fuck out of your head for 5 minutes. Maybe 5 minutes more as you get out, and then all the thoughts come back in. And I know this because I spent a long time chronically ill, and I loved the 5 minutes that I was in the ice bath, because it was the one time where my head was just like, not thinking of anything. So we're using all of these tools to get back to being human. Like, if we didn't live in cities and we didn't have cars, we'd be in nature, we'd be washing in lakes, we'd be eating off the land, we'd be in tune with our breath, we'd be in tune with our bodies, we'd be in tune with the seasons, we'd be in tune with our communities, we'd have deep, nourishing relationships with our people, we wouldn't be fucking looking at a phone every time. Like, think how far away we are from being human and how we used to live. And I've come into London, everyone's on concrete, everyone's breathing smoggy air, everyone's eating fucking food out of cardboard. Like, we're so far removed.
Yeah.
So all these wellness tools are just getting us back to being human. And like, it, you know, I do this with like friends and other men that I know. Like, I don't go for a drink with other men. I'm like, we'll go and sauna together. Like, you know, I've just met up with a friend. We went to the gym together. We did a sauna, we had a cold shower together, we chatted amazingly, we did something for our mental, physical, emotional health, we bonded. The other week, I went to the beach, we did a sauna box on the beach, did a walk up the beach, did a cold dip, amazing. Mm-hmm. But we did something for our physical and mental health, like, but we were humans in nature, working with the elements and like conversing at the same time. We were connecting on all these different levels, and that's what all these new things that we're doing are. It's just getting us back to being a human.
I love that, mate. And to be honest with you, like, I'm 33 years old, so not old by any means, but I've noticed over time, I found myself finding more friends that want to do that stuff. Like, in my early 20s, I don't know if it was the same for yourself, but in the early 20s, everyone wants to party, everyone wants to go out, and some people want to do drugs, etc. And I'd never found any friends that wanted to do that stuff. And it was interesting because my career at the time I was in the armed forces. So I loved doing adventure stuff. I love going out in nature. Like, last year, we actually cycled up the length of the UK, me and Dan and Rob. And it ignited that kind of inner instincts of adventure that I've been missing for so long. And when you say things like this, it's so easy in modern life, especially, you know, living in a city like me and Dan does. You get caught up in the daily busyness of everything going on. You never take time for yourself to actually just slow down. This is what you're talking about with meditation, etc. And yeah, it's eye-opening to hear what you're saying, because it is so relatable to someone like myself. I don't know if this is something that people go through when they get older, or whether this is something that 21-year-old Ben could probably start thinking, actually, I was the same back then as well, or maybe it wasn't, but
I was to a degree. So when I was 20 odd, I would drink a lot. I'd go out chasing girls, having lots of fun. But also, I was traveling the world. I was building a business. Like, I didn't sit still. I did a lot of cool stuff. I don't really have any regrets. My big regret is not having maybe a good guiding, strong voice around me as I went into like my 30s, and someone to say, mate, you need to slow down a little bit, because like you're heading towards, you know, health crisis, which I kind of did. But all of what you've just said, we have the ability to take the power back. You know, as I'm an entrepreneur, I can dictate what my week looks like. I can choose how much I work. And the problem is within all of this, there are stories that we tell ourselves. There are limiting beliefs. So people will say, oh, I can't do that because I haven't got enough time, or I haven't got... Okay, let's flip it. What would a person who had enough time do? How would they build their week? How would they build their calendar? If you're working 50 hours a week and only earning 50 grand, set yourself a challenge. Could you work 30 hours a week and earn 80 grand? Of course you can. It's possible. We all know it's possible, but you have to expand your mind. You have to open up the possibilities. So if you came home to my office where I do most of my work and look at my calendar, I've already got 8 holidays booked in my calendar for this year. Holidays for myself, holidays for me and the wife, holidays with the kids. I've got a work retreat. There's another possible retreat. Like, I'm on top of like the big adventures in my life. And then you look at my weekly calendar, it's like, right, when am I going to the gym? How often am I going to go and do something different, like a sauna box down the beach or whatever? And I plan all of this in because I know that it's important for me. It's important for my health to kind of have this balance. Like, I love work, but I don't want to work all the time. And I know it's unhealthy to work all the time, and I don't want to work all the time. So we can take the power back, but you've got to have the confidence to step into a different and new story for yourself.
I think the one thing that just cracked into my mind there is, obviously from what you're saying, it's doing the reduced hours for that more income to allow you to do these things as well. And me, kind of big thing I struggle with, and Nick will know this more than anyone else because, again, as business partners here, he's all of the shit that I come out with. But one of the big struggles I had was income. And it's only in this last year that stability's hit that income level. For the last 2-3 years, I'd been fluctuating so much. There was so much coming out of my bank account. I was sitting there, I was like, how am I ever going to get my time back? I'm doing the stupid hours in the gym that you end up doing, like 6 a.m. starts, 7:30 p.m. finishes, and still not seeing the return off it. So I know where I am now, and I listened to people like yourself and turned that around. But for someone sitting there still with a similar mindset from where I was, how do they get themselves out of that rut almost?
Go and find someone that's done it. That's it. Like, all of these things in life, whether you want to earn more, live more, love more, whatever, go and find someone that is earning more, living more, loving more, and be like, mate, what are you doing? Like, there's loads of blueprints out there. There's loads of people out there. There's loads of YouTube videos out there, and they've got the formula. The biggest thing that's in your way of implementing the formula is your ego. And and I used to do this with business books all the time. I'd read a business book. I'm like, I already know this, or I've got a better idea. And you're like, you haven't. Otherwise, you'd be doing it. So just go find someone. Just be an ask. And men are usually pretty bad at this. We're like, let's just struggle through it. If I just work a bit harder, I'll get there. And it's 2 years later, bro, you're still there spinning the same story. Go get a coach. Go get a mentor. Go buy the book and let your ego get out of the way.
I mean, I agree with you a lot there. I've read a lot of books over my 20s, and I feel like something with books, though, that I don't seem to be able to grasp is that once you've read the book, you can feel with all these ideas, and you want to go implement them and start putting them into your life. But then time goes on, and then you start finding interest in another book. You read that book, you get all these ideas again. 10 books down the line, you forgot the principles from the first book.
Yeah.
One entrepreneur said that you should take a couple of these, very good books, like they say the typical Think and Grow Rich ones, and just read them again and again and again until they ingrain. But I don't know how much reading a book is going to implement and integrate into your life compared to going out and getting someone to actually talk to, physically. Having this kind of conversation right now, you learn so much more about someone and so much more about what someone believes in than you do from a book. And so for those that are, just watching YouTube and reading books all the time, is there anything they can do other than just going to talk to someone that they actually implement on a daily basis that's going to help them integrate all the things they're learning, as opposed to just reading books and not actually getting anything from it, if that makes sense?
So once you get an idea, I would pair the idea with the journey and the strategy and the outcome. So if you get an idea from a book, the thing is what books do is they raise emotion, they raise possibilities. You're like, oh, this is a great idea, and you kind of get behind it and you really feel it. And then the next day you're now starting a podcast or whatever, and then you haven't sat down and gone, oh, well, what's my podcast going to be about, and how many episodes am I going to do, and what equipment do I need, and how much time is it going to take, and how much is it going to cost, and how am I going to get the guests, and all these things. And then you've sort of used up all these energies, and then you've hit all the roadblocks, and then the idea fizzles out, and you just keep meandering through all of these different kind of ideas. So I think one of the key things here is intention. What is your goal? What is your intention? So if you read a book and you have all these ideas, how does this fit into my current goals, my current intention? Okay, right now in my life, we'll use your example. I really, 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 really want to get financially stable, want to nail my PT business, blah, blah, blah. So literally all you're learning should probably get behind that one singular idea until you learn it and nail it, because otherwise you're going to start going off here, start going off there, and then you're going to be like, I'm a year in, I've improved that a little bit, but I've also run away with these like other ideas. And this kind of almost goes back to the soul part of our conversation earlier. It's like, get really in touch with who you are, where you're going, how you're going to get there, and use your learning to direct that. And that's the problem with social media. We're on it, we're getting all these ideas, we're getting all this inspiration, we're like, and it's like, how does that filter into your strategy? What is your strategy right now? Where are you going? What are you trying to do? What are you trying to achieve? And I talk about that in my book, How to Live an Awesome Life. I'm like, find a problem, go find the best book on that problem, then go watch 10 YouTube videos on that problem and solve that problem. Implement it and integrate it into your life, and don't try and integrate 8 different problems and change 8 different things in your life at once, because you're not going to get there. You're going to get there in a long and haphazard way. So it's really important to have a goal behind all of this. And the thing you mentioned, like a coach, the thing with a coach is you can read a book, but a coach has the power, if they're a good coach, to hold the mirror up to you. Because you can have an idea and, like, for example, like, oh, I'm going to go on a diet. This is how I lose weight. We all know how to lose weight. Ultimately, what needs to be solved is why the person can't lose weight originally. What's the fear? What's the block? What's the emotion? What always unravels when they try to lose weight? That's the thing that you want to solve. And sometimes only the coach can unravel that and be like, this is why you keep yo-yoing through your diet, because you have a poor relationship with food because of X happened in your life 11 years ago and you're still replaying that same emotional loop.
How would you have that conversation with someone? I really want to delve into that. How would you have that conversation with someone? Because I think we've all had clients who don't take acceptance into their own life of what's going on. And like, when you have that talk to begin with, say there's someone who just never gets on top of their diet. They work for a really high-end company, but they always say they don't have time to do things. But whenever you raise that conversation, they either eye roll you, they just kind of don't take it in, or they're not listening to the conversation you're having. They talk over you. How do you then navigate stuff like that?
So this is where a lot of personal trainers are always going to struggle with their clients, because they probably don't have the time in their coaching setup with the client to put aside really good quality coaching time. So for me to sit down with a client and unravel the why behind why they emotionally eat or they can't get control over their food is probably a good 40 to 90 minute conversation to really get into it, really start to unpick this. And I know this because I do a lot of this style of coaching. I do deep psychological, emotive inquiry with clients, because as a high performance coach, like, there's all these things like sleep optimization, all that kind of stuff. Most people know all of that shit. My job is to really get in at the root of everything that's within them and be like, right, this is why you're not able to do this stuff. This is the thing that's holding this, and this back. And it's usually 1 or 2 things that are connected to the whole web of things that they can't unstuck. So I might sit down with the client and be like, right, talk me through your history of food. And we might go way back, and you just need to inquire and inquire and inquire. And the power of the coach is not to tell the client how to do anything, is to lead them to the answer, is to empower them with the solution, because then they'll be highly motivated. And the thing is most of the things that we're constantly struggling with go way back. They go back to our childhood, or something that happened at school, something with their parents, maybe something in the workplace in their early years. And that kind of trauma, whether it's trauma with a big T or a small t, has shaped their behavior. And now that behavior is wrapped up in loads of other stuff. It's wrapped up in not enough time. It's wrapped up in a fear of not being good enough. So they're overworking to try and appease, whatever part of themselves. So good coaching takes time. Like, you can't just, if you're training a client 3 times a week, PT, and you're like trying to have a nutrition chat on the last 10 minutes, in the squat rack.
You literally know how it works.
You are never, ever going to get to the root cause of the problem.
This is why I say to my online, some of my in-person PT clients, that online sometimes works better for people, because you're literally there for that purpose. You're having a discussion about these things. Whereas when you're PTing them, you're focusing on the training. And a lot of people think that it's the training they need. They don't think about the nutrition, the lifestyle elements. And just as you highlighted there about the 10-minute nutrition chat at the end of the session, that is literally how most of my PT sessions tend to go because of that reason. But that being said, though, yeah, I totally agree. Where is the line, though, when it comes to coaching at that level where it becomes therapy and PTs are no longer qualified to go down that route of delving into that realm?
So it definitely depends how you approach talking to a client in kind of a deep way. So I don't think there's anything wrong with sitting down with a client and just be like, do you want to really kind of explore this? Do you want to get under the skin of it? And you're just asking questions. And of course, like the key thing in powerful coaching is empathy, listening, like really holding space for that client, non-judging them, and just basically holding their hand as they walk the journey. You're not trying to solve anything in that session. You're just trying to unpack things. Now, if you start to delve into something that is very emotive in that client, and they're really struggling to kind of open up, or there's a real big trigger there, you have to make the decision as to whether you want to do that, you feel skilled to do that. But I've always encouraged personal trainers, like, go and do your personal training qualification, then go and do your nutrition qualification, and then go do some form of psychological mindset-based training so that you can help the clients with all the stuff that they struggle with. Because if you take 100 clients, trust me, 40 of them, give them the training plan and a bit of nutrition help, they'll get in shape. There's another 20% that read a lot of nutrition help, and then that 30 to 40%, they're the one that need the therapy. They're the one that need the support in really understanding why they're just going through this constant loop of sabotage, effect, sabotage, good effect, sabotage. So I do think there's a line, and unfortunately, we can only as individuals decide where we sit on that side of the line. I have skills and qualifications that kind of help me there, but I'm also learning even more. So I've just done a spiritual leadership and space holding course. I'm now doing an intuitive psychology course because I understand the power of the mind and where people's problems lie. So I would always encourage his coaches to walk down that path.
Something that I genuinely love getting into and getting to the meat and bones and stuff like that, because I agree with you. This is when people say holistic training, it's fantastic, but I think this is the deep set level of coaching that people almost should expect. I had a client the other day, we were discussing the standards and PT norms, like what people expect from a session. And I think the expectation of a PT session is still very much people are going to get beasted in an hour, they leave feeling sweaty. That's really it. Like, people don't really expect that kind of level of nutritional detail that people go into. And obviously there's a lot more online coaches in the space. I always have this conversation where people say it's saturated. I don't think it's actually that saturated. I think it's not very saturated with good coaches. I think that's where we're losing out a bit, because there's so many people that coach, but they don't necessarily coach well, which then actually helps the people that are better at the job, because then people identify the differences. From when you used to be back as a PT, what was kind of the standard of coaching that was delivered back then?
It's tough. I think the standard of PT training as a whole is not great. I don't want to comment too much. I'm really not in this space anymore. It's just not. It's not where I am. So I don't want to talk out of turn. I think any area of life, there's always an array of coaching kind of abilities. The problem is the qualifications just didn't spend enough time with the individuals. We've now got the rise of 6-week courses. You can get trained probably even quicker. There's no way you can master something in 6 weeks. No freaking way. It takes a long time to be a good personal trainer. It's also not an easy trade being a personal trainer.
No.
Like, there's a lot to understand of the body, the mind, of movement, of nutrition, programming. Then you've got to sell yourself. It's actually quite a hard job. Like, I think people think PTing is like a bit of a doddle. Like, they just see the bits on the gym floor, but there's all the bits around it that are actually like quite hard to kind of do. So wherever someone's at in their career, you sort of mentioned, is stuff saturated? If you want to do anything in life, just try and become the best at it. Like, there's probably, on where we are, there's probably 10 coffee shops outside. But if an 11th opened and it served the best coffee on the road and probably nailed like an amazing pastry or sandwich or whatever, it's going to be busy, right? The cream rises to the top.
I was going to say that.
So
that's perfect. Yeah.
Yeah, like whatever you're doing in life, just become the best at it, and you're always going to be in a stable, strong position.
Yeah.
So, I mean, on the topic of becoming the best at something then, right? So you're all about awesome. You know, it's on the t-shirt, your books, you've got 2 books with awesome in the title.
Yep.
You say awesome a lot. I love it. So if someone wanted to become the best at something, become awesome, what is the 11-step framework that you teach?
You now tested me.
Yeah.
So I've got to try and remember this, the steps now. I've got the book.
It's Awesome Life, isn't it?
Yeah, it's Awesome
Yeah,
Life, and
yeah.
that kind of is the breakdown. So I'll tell you what, I'll talk about the book and how it's structured, and that'll be a bit of an easier frame. So the first half of the book, I tell a lot of stories, and I lead the client on a journey to understand where they're not fulfilling their potential. And in the book, there's a lot of written exercises. I'm not a huge fan. It's appropriate to the book, but when you get a personal development book, I think there should be exercises in it, because you need to like sit with ideas and be like, right, how am I actually going to implement this idea into my life? Like, what does it mean for my life? What do I need to change? So there's quite a lot of written exercises in my book. So first, I want to try and break people down a bit. Like, let's really try and get out of the way of the ego. Let's understand what I want in life, etc. And then I try and move people into the practical part of, right, now we need to look to improve our mindset. We need to improve our environment. We need to improve our nutrition, our hydration. We need to improve our movement. We need to improve our ability to earn money. And I think that's an important thing, because if you earn more, you have more freedom. You have more money to buy good food and get a personal trainer and go on great holidays. And I think quite often money's a bit of a taboo topic, but it's like, let's be honest, the more you have, the more freedom you have. So that doesn't mean work. That means be clever and find a way to earn more without maybe working more, maybe even working less. And then there's kind of the learning side of things, like how is your learning directing kind of like your growth? What does support look like as a person, like getting coaching? Like, I'm always a fan of people having coaches in their life, especially through particular challenging points in your life. But if you're someone that really wants to grow and be your best self, we all know you're going to get there faster with a coach. Like, you're leaning on someone that has skills and experience and expertise, because we know there's a recipe to living a good life, and it's looking after your body, looking after your mind, developing your soul, learning, growing, but also not forgetting to have fun and live and be present for your kids and your families, which can often be neglected in this kind of high performance conversation, because it always feels like the energy is forward, the energy is quite masculine, but let's not forget that life is for living.
Yeah, and I struggle with that, by the way, even to this day. I haven't quite got there yet. Like, I don't know what it is, mate, but you always feel like guilty for when you don't work, when you've got time off. Let's say it's 6:30 p.m. Like, you've got home, you could just sit down, play some Call of Duty with the boys, or enjoy some time with your girlfriends, cook some dinner together. But the nagging voice in my head is, you're not getting ahead. And you go onto Instagram and you see other people posted at 6:30, and it looks like they're just constantly doing stuff, always ahead of you. And it is tough. I haven't quite figured that out myself. I think I'm going through that learning phase myself. But it would be good to know, like, what your kind of thoughts are on, like, someone like myself, but also people out there that are still in this kind of space, but are trying to find time for themselves. What is the best way of doing that? Is it a time management thing? Is it something else?
It's not a time management thing. It's unpacking the fears that you have deep inside you. So for me, it was the fear that if I didn't keep working, I wouldn't be validated. And part of that was linked to my dad. We had a bit of a unsettling kind of childhood, and there was a lot of distance between our relationship. And then I got bullied a lot at school. So for me, being an entrepreneur and doing things and achieving was linked to being validated as a person, because you get pats on the back and blah, blah, blah. So I had to unpack all of that. And then there was just kind of like this sort of kind of learn addiction to like doing and the kind of reward of doing, and actually just kind of questioning that and saying, well, am I getting the reward that I think I'm getting? Because while I'm doing that, I'm also leaving behind maybe just like going on holiday and maybe just the enjoyment of going to watch a rugby game or playing Call of Duty or whatever. So for me, whenever anything is difficult, you just have to spend time with it. And the problem is, most of us, and I was running away from it and just doing the same thing and then getting the same result. And it's like, right, I'm sat here and right now I really want to watch the rugby game, but actually I've got this pull inside me that I need to work. Why is that? And you have to sit with that till you get an answer. And you either have to meditate, or you have to journal, or you can use breath work, or you can get a coach. But if someone can't be fully present, we've got to question the thoughts that go through, because that's where you're going to unlock yourself. That's where the unlock is.
That is something that I again agree with Nick, because I think that's why we have such similarities between us. And like my partner said it, and this is just a weird thing to bring in the conversation. I didn't think I'd be chatting about this today. So I was trying to put in, do you know the rotating washing lines? I was trying to put in a rotating washing line the other day, okay? I'm not usually the most stubborn person. I accept defeat a lot of the time, but I've moved flats 3 weeks ago. And, you know, as a bloke, we want to get shit done. We want to get it finished so you then can think, okay, everything's done. Now I can start doing what I need to do. And I was trying to put this rotating washing line in for 3 hours.
Wow.
3 hours. It was a £14 one from Argos and had a plastic stump. I realised after 30 minutes that the concrete in the grass was too high. So bearing in mind, normally most people go, but I can't get it in the ground. I've got to find another way of doing this. I cracked the metal because I was hammering it in the ground so hard. I cracked the plastic because I was hammering in the ground so hard. But I didn't want to give up. And my partner even came out after the hour mark and went, do you want to find another way? And I was in this state of stubbornness, and almost just like an analogy, a state of stubbornness that I was going to keep hammering it in until it went in, even though all I was hitting was concrete. I was bending tent pegs trying to hold it down. It was horrendous. I wish I filmed it. Actually, my parents were on Messenger at one point in time, and if they're watching or listening to this, they'll know what I mean, because they were getting a comedic act of this washing line keep collapsing on top of me with all the washing still on it. But it's that repetitive process. If I hadn't learnt from doing that, I just thought, no, ape must hammer to get this in ground. Ape will hammer, and repeat the process. I got so frustrated and so angry with myself by the end of it. But it's similar to what you guys are saying. I just thought I'd bring that into context. And now I'm a vegan. So
full circle.
It all transpires. But it's just crazy when that is the world we live in, that sometimes I get myself in that feedback loop. Same with content production, same with work, same with, like, you know, as I say, one of the big fears I know that I have is income, because I've never had a lot of money. So when I had it, it's mad, different change. But, you know, let's kind of peg that back into it. Like, there's a lot of people in this, especially the fitness industry and wellness space, that it's the whole kind of no bullshit attitude. And I like a no bullshit attitude, but I don't know if you've seen a guy called Higher Up Wellness at all.
No.
He went from 100k followers to 1.6 in a year, which is astounding. You know, from a growth perspective, fantastic guy based in America. But he has this very direct way of talking to people, which is the no bullshit. But it kind of similarly kind of synergizes with, you know, a more compassionate way too. But do you think there's disparity between these two lights? Like James Smith does it a lot, the call out culture. Do you think there's disparity? Do you think we can interlink these, or like, is it still good for the soul, the call out culture? Apologies for interrupting the podcast. We know you're getting fully engrossed into this episode, and we really appreciate you stopping on the video on YouTube or on Spotify if you found us through one of the search pages. Make sure to leave a review and a subscription if you haven't already. But we just wanted to interject a point here that me and Nick have 15 years of coaching experience between us, and it's only getting better as we've got better guests on the podcast. The only way we can do that, though, is with the growth of our program that we've just released. We've got a 12-month PerformWell program, which has just dropped, and we'd love you guys to get involved in it. If you want to learn more details, make sure to head to the description, as we've got our website in there, which can give you a full overlay of the program. We're looking to help career-driven professionals, entrepreneurs, small business owners, and anyone dominate their life by improving their lifestyle. Me and Nick like to claim ourselves as experts in this area, and if you want to check out some of our own other transformations, I'm sure you do. We've got some amazing people who have performed so well off the back of this program. Have a cracking day, and we really appreciate your time. Let's get back to the podcast.
When you call people out online, there is an opportunity to make the world a better place. If it's done from a place of, like, I'll say love, but respect for potentially a particular trade or area. Like, I'm in nutrition. I've called out Stephen Bartlett before. I think I did it in a very tasteful way. I think it really hit a note. A lot of people got behind it. But I did that because I'm very passionate about the truth in nutrition. And I've dealt with years and years and years of people similar to you that have come to you and gone, oh, I've seen this thing online, and seed oils and all this kind of stuff. And it's on Stephen Bartlett's show. And you're like, bro, you're making my job really hard because you're now seen as more of an expert because you've got 1 million followers on Instagram or whatever than me, who's been studying nutrition for 17 years. So I think when call outs are done right, they can make the world a better place. And I've been called out before online, and actually there was some stuff that I had to look at within myself and go, actually, what I was saying was not 100% evidence-based. I need to learn and grow from that. So I think that's people upholding better. And I think that's kind of a good thing. In terms of like the no bullshit attitude, which I suppose is a slightly different segue, I think everyone wants compassion. Like if you coach someone without compassion, it's a pretty rare specimen that's going to get results. Most people want to be seen, want to be heard, want to be empathized with, because we all do have struggles and problems and they need to be worked through. And taking a no BS attitude of like, just, you know, do the work, it will get you so far, but it's probably going to come crumbling down at some point, because there's only so long you can keep, you know, forcing the hammer into a situation that needs a screw sort of thing, and a more kind of gentle approach. So I think there's a time and a place for it, like anything. And I, as a coach, will take an opportunity to be direct where I kind of need to be. But I would much rather, and it's generally way more effective, try and empathetically lead the client to the answer and allow them to realize it themselves. And that takes more time. And people like the no bullshit approach because it's easy, it's quick, it's direct. It's like the David Goggins, just like, get it done. And it's like, well, okay, I see that. And a lot of people are not applying enough action to the right areas of their life. But that's usually because people are fearful of something. And to unpack fear and understand that fear, those fears, maybe often multiple, you need to have empathy and compassion and go on a journey with that.
I couldn't agree more with the action part. Like I think, especially in my life as well, and a lot of my clients, is they don't take enough action on things. And it's like sometimes you just want to shake them, just do it, do the thing. But then I get the compassion angle as well. Some people react differently, I find. Like some people like to get their ass kicked in the gym. It's weird. Like they're just like, abuse.
It's like sadism, isn't it?
Yeah, abuse me, do whatever you want, like just get me to do it. And then some people are the complete opposite. And I think I spoke to you previously about this, about Dan has slightly different clients than what I train. And I think some of yours would probably, I would say, largely more compassion-based coaching, probably best. Some of mine, on the other hand, are a little bit more of the vicinity of like, right, let's just get this done. Like, let's stop talking. Like, we're very chatty in this session. And they absolutely love it when they get smashed. Now, I'm not saying obviously that means that they are perfect by any means. Maybe there's something that you just spoke about that they need to actually see within themselves. But it's interesting for sure.
It's the blend we've got, as we said, with the company, with PerformWell, with Coach and Lab. We said it's like a yin and yang approach, you know. Yin and yang is like light and dark, and it's just having the synergy between the two to allow yourself to kind of develop and grow over time. And it's, as you said about earlier, about limiting beliefs, a lot of people have those ingrained, almost like, you know, me talking about the washing line and hammering that in. That is, as you say, with a screw, washing line into concrete. But those kind of things just come up all the time for people. And, you know, especially myself over the years, to get myself to where I am now. Some of my mates said ages ago, they were like, oh, you know, you're really successful in what you're doing. And I sat there, I was like, am I? Like, am I really? And imposter syndrome crops up a little bit, doesn't it, at that point in time? Now, something you spoke about and kind of like we've dipped our toe in a little bit was the kind of long-term health implications that you had. Now, you had long COVID, am I right in saying?
Yeah.
For yourself, what was that like when you had long COVID?
It is a very dark place. Depressed, despondent, you can't move properly. I mean, if you move too much, then you're just in bed for another week. Like it's a pretty bad place to be. But it led me on a journey to start to ask pretty hard questions of myself, because I couldn't just treat it as a physical healing process. And I feel that a lot of, in my opinion, people that are struggling with their health and have done for a long time, they are only ever looking at the physical body. We are not just a physical body. We are a mental body, we're an emotional body, we're an energetic and spiritual body as well. And for me, you have to look at those other things. We know and people have written extensively on it that, you know, trauma can be stored in the body. So we have to explore like all of these things. So I was on a journey. I was getting better. My physical body was getting better, but I was still depressed. I was still angry, still felt despondent. There was and also a hormonal component to that. So after long COVID, it left me with quite a lot of gut issues, left me with testosterone deficiency. So I got on TRT, started to feel like, again, significantly better, but it didn't complete the picture, because I started to see that for me to move forward, I actually had to be a different human. Because if I went back to, and this is what a lot of people, for me, can get wrong in the journey of growing through like an illness, is like, I want to just get back to me. That's what they will say. And so actually, what this is teaching you is the person that you were made you ill. And now you need to grow into a different person, a person that isn't running through fear or pushing their body too high, or, you know, feeding it in this way. And we need to 2.0 ourselves. You know, if I went back to who I was, I would have just made myself ill again. I would have burnt out again and been in bed again and been in a horrible place. So the whole journey taught me that it was basically an opportunity for me to be like, no, there's a really different human, the real you, that's on the other side of this kind of illness. And it was a long journey, but I'm so grateful for it, because now I'm intentional, I'm slow, I'm calm, I'm present with my kids, I'm present with my wife, my business is benefited, everything's benefited.
Yeah, and that's one thing I can definitely say about you, Ben, is that you come in and your presence is just there. Like, and there's so many people that I speak to, probably including myself in some degree, that don't have that. And you can tell when someone's calm and they're slow and they're purposeful, and I love it. When it came to the long COVID situation, you mentioned in your book that you were a little bit afraid about making the book because of being someone that was obviously in the nutrition space, considered healthy, well, and as you write in a book about becoming well. How did you overcome that?
We all go through life challenges, and that doesn't diminish our power to help other people. I was a coach, I was ill, but I still knew a lot of stuff. I still knew how to help people, and I knew that it wouldn't last. You know, I'd already, at the time of recording, you know, writing the book and then recording the audio book, I'd already made a lot of progress, and I always believed that I would get better. So I was like, I'm going to get through this journey, and on the other side of it is a good story to tell, to help empower other people, how they can maybe navigate their journey better, or maybe not even get into the position that I did, because I kind of lost 3 years of my life. You know, wife was affected, kids were affected, business was affected, everything was affected. And it was just a deep belief in there that I kind of know what I'm doing. And the thing with helping other people is, you know, we can quite often, to this kind of like imposter syndrome thing, it's all a case of perspective. So like me sitting here right now, who can I help? Well, I can help people maybe 3 years prior to me on my journey. I can help that kind of entrepreneur who's hitting it hard and training and doing all these go things, but he's not fulfilled. He's not happy. You know, he doesn't have the things that he thought he would have becoming an entrepreneur. I can help that person. It's the same with you. Like you sit there, who can I serve? I can serve the people getting fit. So even when I was ill, like I knew that I could still help people. I knew I still had energy and wisdom to give. I just wasn't in the place that I wanted to be and could be, but I just had to give it time.
And you've got to grow like from those areas, like you've said there as well, because people can go into those kind of dark spaces as well. And it was something I wanted to ask you as well. It's like meditation digs up a lot in people, breathwork digs up a lot in people. But do you think there's an essence of like a darkness to meditation too? And when I mean darkness, I mean like the spaces people's heads can go to, you know, those tangents that come off.
So if you're in a meditation and you go off into a dark place, for me, that's just an opportunity to explore why that dark place is there. So it's not a negative, it just is. And the problem is when we go into things like meditation, we can get very good at judging it. Oh, I'm a person that would like even entertain that thought. And it's like, come on, we're human. We think about weird shit all the time. Like, so as long as you don't judge it and you just observe it, and they talk in some meditation circles of looking at your thoughts as just clouds in the sky, just passing by, observe it, don't judge it, let it pass on by, and just be an observer. So I think it's just even more of a reason to inquire. Why am I having this dark thought? What's behind it? What's the fear? And it's an opportunity to grow.
Have you heard, is it Carl Jung that talks about the shadow self?
Yes.
Yeah. I'm glad I got that right. So the shadow self, like, so in COVID, 2020 in precisely, sorry, lost all my clients overnight, gym shut, had to find a place to live, to work, because obviously lost my job, lost my income, kind of reset me in a way. And I remember during that time from COVID onwards that I would go into my head a lot, and I did it on purpose because I'm similar in the way that I like to explore what the mind's capable of. And I would sit there for sometimes hour, 2 hours, like trying to push the boundaries of how long I could sit there, like as if it's some kind of challenge. And I got to a point where things got really dark, really depressing. Like I thought I was finding the answers, but I was just shutting myself off from people, kind of putting myself into a very dark place, didn't kind of know who I was anymore. If that makes sense. Almost like a loss of identity, ego. Luckily I came out of it eventually, and therapy did help, having someone to guide through this thought process. But when you talk about the dark side of meditation, like I sometimes think back on that as a very traumatic time of my life, and also super helpful because it did get me to explore those areas, and those are the areas that I don't ever want to kind of go back to. Like I know where my bottom is, if that makes sense. Have you ever had anything similar in terms of that level of darkness when it comes to going into this?
Yeah, but I suppose I would challenge you. So you said I would not want to go back into that kind of place and explore those things. I would argue that maybe those things haven't been dealt with.
Okay.
And this is my criticism of like therapy, not a criticism of therapy. Therapy has a great role and serves people well. I've had therapy. But for me, therapy only ever, usually, depending on the type of therapy, brings more awareness to who you are. So, for example, I had therapy and I was able to come to terms with the fact that, or realize that I was seeking validation in my life because of what happened in my childhood. I was running a fear script because of what happened in my school. From the age of 3, I didn't feel loved because of various different things that I now know and understand. Now, therapy brought awareness to that. So what we can do is we can then withdraw from those feelings because it's like, oh, those feelings are uncomfortable, and you become a slightly better functioning human because you have awareness of the things that deeply drive you. What we want to do, in my opinion, and this is what I've experienced on my journey, is you want to go back and get rid of that stuff. So if you look into whatever's inside you and go, oh, there's some stuff that's really dark and deep in there, we have the power, from what I've experienced, to go in and get rid of that fear, get rid of that trauma, get rid of that behavior pattern by going in and reframing it or showing it love and compassion. And you do this through guided states. You can use psychedelics as well, which I've used on my journey as well. But one of the things that we do that I'm learning in my training at the moment is a psychological technique called working with the parts. And what it is it's a guided process where I will sit you down, or a practitioner will sit you down, and they'll guide you into the part of yourself that is uncomfortable, where there's some darkness or fear or whatever. And then we have to go into that and we have to look at that. Okay, why does that exist? Where does it come from? What color is it? What texture is it? How does it feel? When you lean into that, does it make you anxious or angry or scared? And then you go through a process of trying to understand where that trauma came from and then looking to reframe that trauma. Because what we will quite often do with trauma that's inside of us is we will look at it and we will become angry that it's there. Oh, I'm so angry that this happened in my life and it affected me in this way, and now I'm a victim to that situation. Well, what if we went into that trauma and showed it love, showed it compassion? So the thing that happened to me that was 3, that was quite a defining moment in my childhood, I went into that and I showed it love. And actually, I changed my perspective on how and what happened in that moment, and then I completely reframed the trauma. And then the trauma, which was seen as a negative thing, is now no longer a negative thing because I've seen it through the adult lens, but I've stored it through the child lens. and the child views things differently, but the adult's able to go back into that and go, that's not how it happened. That was your childlike perception. So I would personally always encourage people to try and free themselves of whatever darkness is within them, because there's someone sitting here that had a lot, I now don't have any, and it's a fucking beautiful place to be.
It's honestly somewhere that I'd love to be. Everything you're saying as well is just hitting the nail on the head, just personally with myself, and I'm sure other people who are listening or watching as well, because there's a lot of like trauma throughout the years you don't realise until, as you say, you delve into it. Now, I don't do like ice baths. I tell you what, I made a joke about it the other day. I was like, I personally love a warm shower, can't stand a cold shower. It's just me. But I was just like, but I'll admit to that. But instead of that, I was like, what's the route that I can go down that's not a cold shower? And also anything that gets trending, I tend to just like straight away, because I'm like, I don't want to be that person that follows the trend. But like what I ended up doing, I do planks in the morning. There's no exercise longer, in my opinion, than a plank, and no time that you spend with yourself regretting all your decisions in life than a plank. So I do like 2 minutes 30 at a minute of side planks and a front plank. But in that time, I practice breathing. And to be brutally honest, no one would think about really pairing breath work with a plank, because you're thinking about not surviving during that point in time. And it's some of the most freeing 7 minutes of my morning I ever have. That I sit there and I'm spending this time, like my head will immediately go to the stress sensor, because I don't know if you've read the chimp paradox before. And I go to the chimp center, which is the emotional, like, I can't do this, why am I doing this, blah, blah, blah. But after about a minute, I calm down, and then my senses pick up and be like, okay, I know where I am now. I'm kind of transitioning through this journey of the plank where I'm feeling this part in my shoulder now. I'm starting to get a little bit fatigued, but I'm only ever focusing on that. And actually in that time, some other things come up, and we spoke about like financial security being one of my big fears, and it's come into that conversation a lot. But by doing those 7 minutes every day and repeating the habit, you know, I get to an end point with it where I'm feeling so much more confident. I'm not doing it to build, it helps with the core, but I'm not doing it to build a strong core. I'm doing it to center everything in my body at that point in time. And that picks out the darkness. So I think what I'm trying to get to is like people have to find like almost like a darkness toothpick, find that bit that they can pull away from and find that kind of area that gives more essence to what they want to achieve. And I think everything that we've spoken about in conversation comes down to finding these small epicenters within ourselves. Now, one thing I've listened to a lot recently is in like in a lot of martial arts, they talk about chakra. Is that something as well you've explored yourself?
Yeah, the 7 different chakras in the body.
What kind of information could you give to people as well on chakra? Because it's just an interesting concept to me.
I don't think I can give enough, because it's not my area of expertise, but I'm aware that there are energy centers within the body. And when you spend time looking at the energy body and what the energy body is, I do think there's some truth to it, and from what I've experienced. I do a lot of meditation. I've done lots of ceremonies. I've done yoga. I've done all sorts of stuff. And all of these things have shown me that there's way more than the physical body. There is an energy body. There is a spiritual body. And what you're doing is you're kind of leaning into that. So maybe a way to look at it is a lot of people are chasing potential problems in their life, whether that's injury, illness, stress, etc. And we quite often will go to the doctor and we'll look for a solution there, or we'll go to a personal trainer to lose weight. If these things aren't working, how about we move beyond the physical body and we start to look at the psychological body, the emotional body, the energy body, the spiritual body? And that's what a lot of these Eastern philosophies have shown us. Now, I've been an evidence-based practitioner for a long time. I love science. Everyone should love science. But when you start to look at the human, there's only so much that you can explain with science, and you just have to get into it and experience it. And I've just worked with so many phenomenal practitioners and seen so much as a human that I'm like, there's more to being a human than what we understand in kind of the linear and body science. And that's why I'm so bullish now and such a big proponent of looking at the mental, emotional and spiritual body.
I think that's a route that a lot of people are going out. We had Simon Squibb on the podcast who spoke in that essence as well about kind of like him, like we talk about tribalism. We spoke about like kind of finding the inroad of spirituality, the passion, the purpose. And there was something he said which was like, a life without purpose is like a life without, what was it? I can't remember the end phrase of it.
I can't remember.
But it was
life without meaning?
Yeah,
maybe?
similar along those terms. But he spoke on that a lot, and I feel like obviously I hate coining the term guru, but I think highly trained experts like yourself, you know, in that field and like the fields that you've developed now, you've all got this same kind of level to it. I say same, you've got different levels, but
Sure.
you're up in this kind of, everyone's kind of looking to where you are and seeing it as a massive stairway to heaven. But you guys have been through rigor. You've hit those like kind of dark spots to kind of come out of it. Obviously, you spoke on the weight loss side of it, and I think a lot of people need to lean into these areas of discomfort more. But we've become so easy. Like comfort comes easy, doesn't it? These days, I could pick up my phone and I have comfort. You know,
Gary V put it really well for me in terms of a way to like perceive it. It's like your head's in the clouds, but your feet are in the dirt. So it's like you still have your grounding with the earth. You're still moving. You're still using your body. You're still taking action on things, but you're allowing your head to be in this other kind of area, or as you touched upon, the spiritual body. And that's always for me given me some kind of concept of being able to like marry the two. So because law of attraction, I mean, for me personally, I've done law of attraction. I know you have. I'm pretty sure you've probably touched upon the idea of manifestation, law of attraction at some point in your spiritual journey. And it's very easy to think that if you think all the time, things are going to just happen, right? And
It won't happen if you think about it.
No,
in my opinion.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's what I found with it, and it's like marrying this action taking mentality with your spiritual practice is like number one.
But I think you and me mean different things.
Yes.
So there's this thought, and then there's action. There's thought, and then there's embodiment, and then there's frequency. So you can think loads of things like, I really want to X, and then you go and create action. That's not the law of attraction. That's a thought and just a strategy behind the thought. So I might sit there and think, I want to earn more. And to earn more, I need to go and do 5 extra PT sessions, and then it's about action. The law of attraction is all about embodying the thought, then you make it a reality. So what has to happen within that is you have to surrender to the path of getting there, rather than thinking of the journey there, which is just a classic thought and strategy process. So for example, right now I might be like, right, I wanna earn an extra £100,000 this year, whatever. Right. Do I believe that I can do that? And if you can make that thought an impregnation in your physical body, if you genuinely believe that, whether it happens on a number basis or not, you will start to expand into that, because you will start to become someone that can actually facilitate that process. But the key art in what I found in all of this is you have to surrender to the journey. You can hold on to the goal and embody the goal, but the way to get there, you have to let just unfold. And it's absolutely beautiful. So that's why I think a lot of people get wrong with the law of attraction. It's a thought, an action, and then inaction. No, you have to fully embody it. And you can only fully embody it when you're spending time in like meditation. You're able to really explore this thought. And because if a thought or an emotion is blocked by a fear, it will never happen. So you have to move, as a physical being, as an energy being, you have to move into light. So you have to get rid of your fears, because you can't achieve something big and amazing because the fear will block it. And that's why you have to unpack the darkness that is within.
Well, it's a difference between do and be. There's something else as well. There's another word that I can't think of. But it's like you can be in a doing mindset or just be who you are.
Yep.
And I think you touched upon psychedelics in the past. I've also done a few psychedelics myself, and like it's definitely an eye-opening experience. Not something that I think would necessarily be recommended to everyone. That being said, in my case, it helps. But we want to dive into a bit of a lightning round, just to kind of curtail off this podcast today.
Sure.
Ask you a few questions, get some quick answers from you, and see what we get.
All right, I'll try to be clever.
Yeah. I mean, the first one we're going to start with is for the listeners at home, obviously, to get some practical advice from. But what's a non-negotiable habit that's changed your life?
Good sleep. I was a sleep optimizer all my life, and the thing that held me back was a busy mind. And when I really kind of went on this journey the last couple of years and was able to genuinely let go of everything that was floating around in my mind, my sleep just next leveled. And I mean, I can get to sleep now in 5 minutes. Like I lie down, just do a little bit of breathing, just center myself. And like, I can't even read in bed anymore. I'm like, asleep. And sleep is the level of high performance. You can't emotionally regulate. You can't perform at your peak. You can't do anything without good sleep.
Next thing is describe Joe Dispenza in one word.
Life-changing with a hyphen in the middle.
That's clever, man. That's clever. Okay, what's a belief you've completely changed your mind on?
That we are a physical being with a soul. I now believe we are soul living in a physical being.
I like it.
Yeah.
What's one quote or mantra that you live by daily?
Be the frequency of the solution.
Is that similar to, like, have you read any Vex King books at all in the past?
No.
He talks about vibrational energy between people, and understanding the embodiment, as you're saying, of we are still made of atoms. Those atoms vibrate at frequency. The frequency you give off, gets back. So that positive frequency you give out, you tend to have more positive turns in life. The negative frequency brings more negativity. Just wonder if that is obviously down the route that
you read Letting Go.
Yes.
Yeah. I think, is that similar? Because that's talking about the enlightenment scale, isn't it?
That's David Hawkins, isn't it?
Yeah. And I think the bottom is like
big book.
Shame, I think it is, or apathy, and then the top is like pure enlightenment, peace, bliss. Is that kind of the scale that you kind of abide by when you think about this kind of vibration level?
Definitely. So if I was to think, a big thing that I will often think about in my meditations is being the pure embodiment of love and light. Because that is the highest vibrational frequency that you can be. And when you vibrate at the level of love, you bring cool people. People want to be around you. Like, fuck, who is this guy? Like, he's just amazing. He's just beautiful. He's positive. He's like radiates it. But you don't radiate that when you're living with shame or guilt or apathy or frustration or anger. So again, it's why you've got to go in and kind of get rid of this stuff. And then, it's not that you automatically then vibrate up. For me, you've got to work at it a bit. You definitely automatically kind of expand, but you kind of work at it as well.
And do you know what I love about that scale the most? Apparently the turning point is courage. Like, I know you talked about fear quite a lot.
Yeah.
But, what would you say courage is exactly? Is it the absence? Is it the doing something in the absent, regardless of the fact that you're scared of something?
Yeah, essentially, yeah. You have trepidation of the thing, but you're going to do it anyway because you know that the growth is on the other side of it.
I love it. It's powerful, mate.
We've got the most important question of the whole podcast here for you. What does living an awesome life mean to you right now?
True presence in every moment.
Perfect. That's perfect. I think that's a lovely way to round up the podcast. It's perfect. Thank you so much for joining us. Honestly, it's been an absolute pleasure. We hope everyone who's listened and watched it over on YouTube have enjoyed it. It's been an absolute quality conversation. We hope we get you back on in the future. Maybe we'll have our own little PerformWell studios, which is an aspiration of ours in the not so distant. Investors, we're here for you. No plug. But Ben, we do plug our podcast guests as well. When they're on the podcast, so people, you can plug away. This camera here is all ready for you as well. Where can people find more about you and everything that you do?
I'm Ben Coomber online, so Ben Coomber, Facebook, Instagram, all the usual places. Have a little podcast called The Awesome Human. It's just a bit of a monologue with me and some of my thinking. So some of the stuff that we've talked about today on breathwork, meditation, spirituality, high performance, sleep, I just doing little 20-minute kind of audio and video clips. The book, How to Live an Awesome Life, is on Audible or what's that big place? Amazon, that place.
That's the one.
Yep.
My day job is I'm CEO of Awesome Supplements. If anyone wants to try it, then they can use the code CEO15. And if anyone feels like they want to reach out and talk about anything from the show, my DMs are always open.
Amazing. Thank you so much. We'll round up, guys. Thank you very much for watching. We appreciate you guys. Make sure to like, follow, subscribe. And if you're over on Spotify, make sure to leave a 5-star review. It helps us grow and we can get more awesome guests on, like Ben as well. We really appreciate your time and we will catch you guys later.
Ciao.